Hey guys, I hope your first week of remote learning went well. I know we all had things we had to learn and things that we knew how to fix, especially on my end. I think I've got the videos fixed and all the assessments should be right, but if you notice something, as always, message me. There is something that you all are doing as a grade level overall that is not okay. Um, Assessments has the show answer function. We all know it's there. You're only supposed to use it if you have tried. In remote learning, trying means that you are asking me for help. If you have not contacted me, then you don't press that button. You contact me, you contact your friends, you contact your parents, you do something. But just because you've tried 3 times on your own does not mean you get to click that show answer button, especially if I'm only giving you one question to look at. That means if you've clicked show answer on that one question, I have no way of seeing what you've accomplished and what you know. So going forward, before you click that show answer button, you talk to me. Okay? If that means you have to wait until the next day to be able to finish your math, you have to wait until the next day. Okay? You're not in trouble. It's just I have to be able to prove that you know the standard. If I can't prove that you know the standard, you can't get credit. So I have to prove that you understand it, even if you're sitting here talking back and forth. The people who have been emailing me and getting help are doing great. So keep that up. If you don't need me, then that's fine. You can email me and just say, hey, you don't have to email me if you know what you're doing. But if you are struggling, email me. Don't click the button in assessments to like chat or to send a comment to Miss Brown. Don't do that because I don't get email notifications for it. Send me an actual email through our Jackson County email. I've tried to look through the comments and email everybody back and see if they need help, but that was only a few people as well. So that was last week. That was our learning curve. And now we've got a short week with just 2 days. So I'm going to try to keep everything really short and concise still. And if we're going too fast, you need to reach out and let me know. Okay, so to get started, here is your warm up for today. If you are online, you need to do this on assessments. Pause and go to assessments. If you are at home, pause, write these down on a piece of paper and do them, and then take a picture of them and put them on the zip drive. Okay, so everybody take a minute and do that right now. Okay, so now we're going to look at the notes for Monday. What we're going to talk about today and tomorrow is called the fundamental counting principles. I'm going to write that down. The fundamental counting principle. And I know you guys are like, do I have to write that every time? No. This one actually makes sense with the abbreviation. The fundamental counting principle is called FCP. So last week we did tree diagrams, and I can only imagine how some of you felt that hate showing work. You're like, why do I have to write all this out? Well, that was so you could get the sample space. And remember the sample space? I don't know why it's doing that, guys. I'm sorry. Please stop. There we go. Maybe it'll do it now. Okay. So the fundamental counting principle does not give you the sample space like the tree diagram does. Remember the tree diagram would tell you you could spin red, then draw an M, spin red, draw an A, spin red, draw an H. This only gives you how many possible total outcomes there are for both situations. This is usually pretty suffice for what you need in 7th grade, the fundamental counting principle is. So from here on out, we're going to use it, okay? So remember, it gives us the total number of outcomes. So the mathy way, we're going to talk about the math lingo, and then I'm going to tell you it in just general terms, what it actually means and how the fundamental counting principle works. So it says we're going to find the total number of outcomes. We just talked about that. So hold on. Come on. It says if one activity or an event, the activity is also an event, can occur in M ways, and another activity can occur in N ways, then both activities, so if we're flipping a coin, for flipping a coin and rolling a dice. Well, you can take how many ways the flipping the coin can occur, how many ways the rolling of the dice can occur, and if you multiply them, so m times n, you get the total number of outcomes just by multiplying the number of outcomes for each event. So here, up here, I'm going to write in our normal everyday lingo, just multiply the number of outcomes for each event. That's it. And that says event over there if you can't tell. Okay. So, and again, I apologize that it's resuming and everything. I've ordered a new one through Amazon that I didn't melt, but Amazon is being very slow on shipping right now, so I'll just have to hang tight. So, our first example is number 5, and it says a standard die is rolled twice. Find the total number of outcomes. Well, a standard die is rolled twice. So that means if I have a dice and I roll it, how many times am I rolling it? I'm going to roll it 2 times, right? So I'm going to roll a dice. And then I'm going to roll the dice again. Right? So my first event was rolling my dice. So event 1. My second event is rolling that dice again. So I roll it, then I roll it again. Okay. So then once you get your events figured out, you still have to do that. You still have to ask yourself, okay, what's going on? What am I actually doing? So you're actually rolling a dice. You're actually rolling the dice again. Then you have to ask yourself, well, how many possible outcomes are there on the dice? So on just a regular dice, how many sides or outcomes are there? Well, there's 6. So there's 6 different outcomes. So for event 1, I've got 6 different outcomes. Well, when I roll the dice again, how many outcomes are there for that dice? Well, there's 6 different outcomes again. So for event number 1, I've got 6. Event number 2, I've got 6. So if I multiply those together, 6 times 6 is what? 36. There are 36 outcomes. Okay. It's a lot simpler than the tree diagrams that we just don't get that sample space. So let's go to the next example. Okay, so the next example we're going to look at is number 8. And it says a month of the year and a letter from the word bingo is chosen at random. How many outcomes are possible? So you have to separate those events. So what's the first thing that you're doing if a month of the year is chosen and a letter from the word bingo is chosen? Well, the first thing you're doing is choosing a month. I'm going to write down month. And that's going to be my event number 1. Well, how many months could I possibly choose from? So how many months could we randomly choose? Well, there's 12 months in a year, so there's 12 different options. Okay. Well, after I choose a month of the year, so I choose a month, then I'm going to choose a letter from the word bingo. So I'm going to choose a letter. And that's my second event because I chose my letter after choosing the month. Well, how many different letter options are there within the word bingo? I've got B, I wish Amy was here, B, I, N, G, O. So there's 5 different letters. There we go. 5 different letters that I could choose from. So there's 5 possible outcomes. Now remember, FCP says if you multiply those 2 possible outcomes together, you can get the total outcomes. So I would do 12 times 5, and that is 60. So there's 60 outcomes. We're going to do number 9 now. I would pause it and see if you can do it before I do it and see how yours is different than mine. So go ahead and pause and attempt it. So number 9 says a letter of the alphabet and a digit from 0 to 9 are chosen at random. How many outcomes are possible? So you have to distinguish your events. So what's the first thing we're choosing? Well, it says a letter of the alphabet. So I'm going to do the alphabet. That's my first event. So if you're like me, you got to go through your head and count how many letters there are. So A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z. 26, I knew that. So there's 26 outcomes. Well, what's the second thing we're doing after we pick out an alphabet, or a letter, not an alphabet, we pick out a letter. Well, a digit from 0 to 9 are chosen, and this is the tricky one. 0 to 9. So I'm going to choose a digit, and digits are just numbers. And that's event number 2. Okay, well, 0 to 9, that means I could do 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There's actually 10 numbers there. There's 10 numbers because you're including 0. So if you put 9 possibilities here, you were really, 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 really close. Okay, you just forgot to include 0. So there are actually 10 possible outcomes there because 0 through 9, that means including 0. So the FCP says that if we multiply our two outcomes together, we get the total number of outcomes. So I do times 10, which equals 260. So there were 260 possible outcomes there. So those are 3 examples we're going to do. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to switch over to your homework sheet so you can take a look at it. So here's your homework sheet. If you're at home, you're going to want to pause this, write down the questions. So I would appreciate if you put 4, 6 individual practice at the top. And then if you put 5, 6, 7, you don't have to write the questions, just write the answers in your work. On assessments, or if you're online, you need to go to assessments and do these right now. Make sure you're showing work. As you figured out last week, not every single time am I going to ask for your work, but a lot of times I am. So last week was just learning. Now I'm going to start adding on the other pieces. Okay, so if you have any homework questions, remember that you need to ask me before you click show answer. Ask your parents, ask friends, something. We have got to do better about going out and trying to get the answer, not just giving up and clicking show answer. Okay, so it's, of course, going to, there we go. There it is. Okay, well, you guys have a good night, and if you need anything, let me know.